Mike aimed at a deer, then pulled the trigger, but it was a human figure that fell. Both were stunned, and Mike, who had fired the shot, quickly went to check. He found that the person hit was actually a boy, and even worse, he was no longer breathing. Mike, paralyzed with fear, collapsed onto the ground. Just then the boy's father arrived, drawn by the sound, and was overcome with grief, realizing Mike was the killer. He immediately raised his gun ready for revenge. Although Mike was terrified, he tried his best to explain it was an accident. However, the man ignored him, and Mike fell into despair. Suddenly a gunshot rang out, and it was the man who fell instead. Mike's friend Dick had fired the shot, only to protect Mike. A series of tragic accidents caused Mike to have a mental breakdown, but Dick was unusually calm, expertly hiding the father and son's bodies in the bushes, then pulling Mike away and quickly driving away from the scene of the killing. They fell silent. Mike was still very panicked. But what confused him was that Dick stopped halfway and intended to continue hunting. Mike couldn't help but ask, and an angry Dick yelled that
you shot a child.
It would be safer to just hunt in the forest for the day and pretend nothing happened to make the lie more convincing. They even went to a nearby convenience store, deliberately chatted with the manager, and casually mentioned they were hunting there. In the evening, they returned to the motel and even complained to the front desk that they hadn't caught anything hunting today. Later, they also went to the most popular restaurant and coincidentally revealed that they had not been to the forest where the incident occurred. However, late at night, to completely destroy the evidence, the two returned to the forest. Mike was diligently digging a pit nearby, while Dick was responsible for finding the bullets. He quickly found one on a tree, but the remaining one was nowhere to be found. He turned to look at the boy and touched his head, but there was no blood. At this moment, Dick understood everything, so he pulled out a knife, ready to dig out the bullet. However, Mike disagreed, viewing it as an insult to the body. The two quickly got into an argument over this. Finally, Mike could only quietly retreat to the car. Not long after, Dick returned, having packed all the evidence into the trunk. Everything was cleaned up, and they drove back to the motel overnight. But to avoid suspicion, they decided to wait until daylight to leave. When they woke up and were packing to leave, they heard noises downstairs. A group of people were checking their car.